Temu orders that used to cost €46 now cost over €100. Why is this? This new Temu tax has been imposed on us by the European Union, and I'm here with Jonathan Gilia and MEP Peter Agius to explain this new Temu tax, and we'll discuss other issues as well. Peter, thank you for being here.
Pleasure to join you.
Why has shopping on Temu become so expensive?
Well, the European Union has so far excluded packages under €150 from its normal taxation regimes. So this is a decision to facilitate online sales in the past for the consumers, but also for businesses, which is now becoming unsustainable from Ursula von der Leyen's perspective and from the perspectives of a lot of member states. It is becoming unsustainable because meanwhile Europe is being flooded, literally flooded, 12 million packages a day coming from Temu, Shein and the like. 12 million packages a day. So basically the message is coming from member states, from a lot of authorities, is our customs authorities are working full time, to keep up with Temu. The way that the European Union, and when I say the European Union, I'm excluding the European Parliament, because the European Parliament on this matter has not formally decided. Why? Because the Commission already has the power in a basic legal act, which we adopted, the European Parliament adopted in the past, many years ago. The European Commission can adopt what we call delegated acts. So the Commission has power to take, let's say, emergency measures. And the Commission has adopted this €3 tax on every category in your shopping list with a view to limit sales from Temu and Shein. There are many other considerations which they floated around in the discussion. Some said, for instance, they were shocked with sex dolls going to France from Temu. Others were shocked by appliances found to be defective and possibly harming people. So because we know that Temu and Shein objects and objects coming from China, which are very, very cheap, generally are not compliant with EU standards, because we should be proud as Europeans that we have laws which really protect us as consumers from harm.
So let's go into
there have
this.
been many motivations for being floated, but mainly it's because customs is overwhelmed.
So how does this €3 tax work? It's not €3 specifically per category. So if I buy, for example, 10 t-shirts from Temu, do I have to pay €3 or do I have to pay even more depending on what t-shirts they are?
To be sure that you're gonna pay only €3, you need to buy 10 t-shirts of the same type, of the same brand, of the same size.
Same size?
If you shop different items from different brands and different types, because you could buy a shirt like this, you could buy a polo, you could buy a t-shirt, then you fall into a bit of a question of interpretation. And then you might be paying actually €3 per every item. So
Who decides what? It's a matter of interpretation.
Technically, the customs code separates every type of category of item in different. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of these items. But what's happening right now, I mean, I had like hundreds of messages already on my Messenger and WhatsApp, is that Temu, for instance, has decided to put this €3 charge basically on every item that it sells to be safe, that it will never have to fork out extra to the customs authorities, because Temu and Shein and the all other platforms, even from the UK, so this applies to any seller outside the EU, they are responsible to collect that money. The
platform.
And then they are responsible to pay it into the accounts of the member states and the customs authorities of the member states.
So this is the end of an era for shoppers, for fast fashion shoppers in Malta as well as Europe.
I hope that if it is, yeah, definitely it marks a big bump into our experience in online sales. But I sincerely hope that it's not just the end of an era. I hope it should be a transition. And a lot of people in Brussels are seeing it this way. I'm not sure they are really on the ball on this, but I hope it marks a transition to Europe investing much more in the local production, in the local offer, and people in Europe buying more locally.
Is there anything in place to make sure that that happens?
Unfortunately not. And this is why I intervened on this matter with Ursula von der Leyen. In my letter to von der Leyen, I insisted that there is a problem with the idea behind this €3 tax, because it's just dumping the tax on the consumer. It's not taking any proactive measures to actually empower Maltese business, for instance. So let's talk about the Maltese stationer. We have one basically in every village, right? In Zaytun, in Halasha, in Gudia, here in Mosta. We have 2 or 3 stationers. Now, okay, I put a tax on Temu, but how am I helping the stationer to actually pay less with the freight? Because these guys, I mean, they are at the receiving end like 3 or 4 times. They have to pay eco-tax.
Yeah.
They have to ensure that anything they sell is CE marked. Inkella jiġu tal-MCCAA, you know, and they get fines because their product is not CE marked. So nobody checks Temu if Temu is compliant or CE marked, but that stationer, if he has a couple of stickers, you know, which are using a product which is, you know, harms the skin or something like that,
Yep.
It's a
he
bit.
has to pay a hefty fine to MCCAA.
It's
So
become-
this guy has to be compliant. He has to pay eco-tax. He has to pay VAT. He has to pay the rent. And then he has to compete with Temu. So
Unacceptable.
the situation is really dramatic for these guys.
It is quite ridiculous. So in your view, though, the solution is making the Maltese business more competitive. Does that mean removing certain regulations?
We need a level playing field. But definitely imposing a flat rate tax on Temu is like admitting that you have no solution.
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, but obviously, the way it works is the reason.
And
That's
in
right.
Malta, we're being at the receiving end twice. Why? Because the consumer now will have to pay. I calculated this 15 to 20 million a year. This equates to more or less 15 to 20 million a year that the customs should be receiving in terms of this Temu tax.
Just Malta.
So yes, just Malta. Because we calculated there are between 2 and 2.5 million packages arriving yearly in Malta, right?
That's a lot of packages.
Yes. Now,
Maltese people love Temu. We love Temu here. We used to love Primark, and now we moved on to Temu.
now we are having it bad twice. Why? Because the consumer is dumped with this tax.
Yeah.
There's a lot of SMEs and businesses. So I was contacted by a lot of businesses who are actually buying from Temu.
Yes. This is like an
Like
unspoken secret.
people in crafts, people who are
Absolutely.
doing jewelry, people who are doing kids parties, people who are doing,
It's not just clothes.
many other. They depend on Temu.
Yep.
But then, from a business perspective,
How many businesses
we are
depend
still
on
lacking the measures which actually help the businesses compete.
How many businesses depend on Temu?
I wouldn't know, but from the number of messages I received, I think hundreds in Malta alone. There are people selling in the markets,
Yep.
in Ormi,
Temu items.
in Mosta, in Birkirkara.
Makes sense.
There are many people selling in the stores, in the souk,
Yeah.
which are actually buying a lot from Temu as well.
And it
Oh, the
kind of makes
price-
sense.
The prices are a little bit more expensive, just to put it mildly.
Yeah. Just a small markup.
Just a
small markup.
of
There are-
300%.
I had a lot of people complaining that they are becoming millionaires
Of Temu
out of
items.
this market.
Incredible.
I don't think they do that, but yes, of course, when you have a shop and you have a personal relationship, you have, after sales service and so on, you have. So there's a lot of. So part of it is justified, but
Yes.
So the demand that Maltese and Europeans have for these kind of items, what does that say about the future of the fashion industry, clothes, shopping in general? are we going to start seeing a shift to people buying outside of Europe, even with the €3 tax, because it's more worth it, there's more variety, etc., regardless of environmental or any other kind of concerns?
Listen, I think Europe in the past has always made the reasoning saying, listen, it's not a big deal if I import cheap shoes from China, as long as I can export Airbuses to China, right? As long as I can export the tractors
Okay.
from Germany and the airplanes and the high machinery, the high quality machinery, and the ST microelectronics
Yeah.
Yeah.
to China, to Asia, to everywhere. No big deal that we import, cheap clothes and shoes and whatever. And the problem nowadays is becoming that China has become an industrial powerhouse of its own. So the Chinese now are producing their own airplanes, their own tractors, their own machinery, which maybe we are interested in buying now as well. So the world has shifted in such a way with the Chinese growth that we need to revise the way we're seeing this. And maybe we need also to invest in Europe's production, even in these what we call cheap goods.
Absolutely.
Because we have to recognize that a lot of consumers are also doing like this comfort shopping.
Yeah.
They just to buy some things.
Absolutely.
It's not like where we were like 30 years ago that you buy what you need.
It's a form of therapy,
Today you don't buy what you need. You also buy a lot of stuff you don't need.
to feel good.
So you didn't answer my question on regulation, because at the end of the day, the reason these goods from Temu are so cheap is because, well, partially because it's easier to produce stuff in China than it is in Europe, right? Because you mentioned this thing of the
I think
sticker,
it shouldn't be easier.
but it is. But currently it is. I mean, you mentioned this thing of the sticker, right? I mean, it's laughable, right? That you have to make sure that the sticker has the right environmental standards. I mean, all of these, and it's just for one thing. These all add up, and these just create more layers on businesses and more layers, which end up
That's true.
translating into extra costs, which end up translating into higher prices for consumers at the end of the day. Is it time really to just deregulate some of this stuff?
Yes, and we're undergoing that right now. So I've been member of the European Parliament for 2 years now. And in front of us, we had 3 or 4 big pieces of legislation where the key intention was to reduce the burdens on businesses. We're grouping them in like these jumbo packs, grouping a lot of different rules. We had one on AI, for instance. We had one on business rules. We had one on corporate reporting rules. So this is an agenda which is very much felt in the European Commission and the European Parliament. I must say also that the European Commission is responding pretty quickly on this, because we adopted some pieces of legislation in 6 months, a year. But still, Europe has so many regulations and such a regulatory culture. So
Yeah.
I see this, for instance, a lot in the French, especially the Dutch and the Germans as well. They think that any problem in life,
Regulate it.
you should regulate
Yeah.
it to avoid it. But sometimes some things you can't really foresee to such a detail. For instance, with the AI Act, we're seeing that problem that Europe tried to act immediately, to regulate. But at the same time, technology is developing so fast that by the time this AI Act enters into force, a lot of people are already seeing it outdated. And this happens a lot to Europe because we have this mentality of regulating.
Instead of creating and innovating.
And with Brexit, it's even worse, because some of the most, steadfast guys resisting this culture were the Brits. Now with them out, the French,
it's even faster.
we can regulate as much as we like because the Brits will never stop us. So Malta has also traditionally been close to the Brits in this mentality that let's be careful. Even with revisions, for instance, you have a number of EU laws which are revised so frequently
Interesting.
that people in the industry, they tell you, we just got used to, we just implemented the new law. And you're already discussing about revising it.
They can't keep up.
Give us a break.
Yeah.
And there's a lot in Europe. We are in transition. I can feel it in the European Parliament. So Now, there's a lot of people doubting this method.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about the EU in a bit, but just the last thing on this kind of Temu tax. Is there another tax that consumers should be aware of? So we've just had this implemented. Is there something coming up that shoppers need to know about?
Yes, two things. First of all, this Temu tax should, in principle, be temporary. So this is what the law says. This Temu tax is being imposed until we find a more systematic
Is there a
and
close
permanent
date?
solution.
Is there a close date?
Normally until July 2028.
Okay.
So 1 year.
It doesn't mean that it
No, 2
will
years,
get
2 years,
less.
2 years, 2
It
years.
doesn't mean that we're not expecting it to get less.
Okay.
But in 2028, there should be another more
They'll probably go
permanent
up to six-
solution.
go up to 6%.
Exactly.
It could be one of the options.
It goes up to €6
But
per.
besides that, the European Union had already decided a few years ago a union handling fee.
Okay.
And this union handling fee is another thing which people will find in their shopping basket as from November this year.
November.
Now, this union handling fee could be between 3, 4, 5, 6 euro per shopping list this time.
Okay.
So not per item. Now, there could be changes to this, but normally this should be something that people should expect come November as well.
Pleasure's yet to come. So, I want to talk a bit about another topic. There was recently a vote in the European Parliament about migration, and MEPs voted, I think you are one of them, in favor of
All of
new.
us. All of
Most
us
of you.
voted in
No,
favour
most
of
of no. There were some MEPs voted against.
Yeah, many MEP, but the Maltese all voted.
Oh, no,
Maltese,
the Maltese. No,
Maltese.
the Maltese.
Roberta was-
Yes. I was
By
talking about MEPs in general. But yes, fair enough. And it's to facilitate the deportation of migrants who are either being processed for asylum or have been and make it easier to deport the ones who have been rejected. Then there was this viral clip where everyone saw it chanting, "Send them back, send them back."
Yes, yes.
Did you chant "Send them
No,
back" with
no,
other
absolutely.
MPs? Why not?
I think that's rude, even to do that in plenary. The European Parliament is the highest democratic institution of the European Union, and I wouldn't be celebrating "Send them back." That's not in my nature, and nobody in my group, the EPP, did that. It was only the radicals on the right side.
So when you were watching them, what was
The
going through your mind?
Patriots.
When you were watching them, what was going through your mind?
It's a spectacle. I mean, it's like you're in the Colosseum, right? You look at the far right, and then you look at the far left to see how they will react. I mean, but we are the guys holding the fort in the middle. And this is a case where, thanks to EPP, my political family in Europe, part of Partit Nazzjonalista, that this package went through. Let's keep in mind that Europe has been deadlocked for ages, for I think 10 to 15 years, without a proper and strong migration law, because we have been speaking for ages about the need to have this very principle very clearly laid down, that who does not have the right to be in Europe, who is here illegally, should be sent back to their to their state of origin, right? This is natural. Nobody should object to that.
So why did it take 10, 15 years? Why is
15 years because Orban was blocking it. Poland was blocking it for a long while. Tusk did not help because he, to calm things down, he said, we don't move forward unless we have unanimity, therefore everyone on board. So Europe was paralyzed on this. Then with this legislature, EPP made it a point with von der Leyen, with all the political groups, listen, this is unachievable for us. This is something we promised people. This is something the Nationalist Party endorsed in Bucharest in 2023. So we knew about this. We signed this. We wanted this. Even the Nationalist Party in Malta. And the law, there's a lot of propaganda going on.
Does it impact
always,
on
always.
But in reality, what we're speaking here is that people who have no right to stay in Europe, there will be facilitation of the decisions of a member state to send someone back, that everyone is recognizing that decision and collaborating in that decision.
Okay.
What is a bit innovative, or some say shocking, but I say innovative, is that you have countries like Tunisia, Egypt, Morocco, which we consider safe countries, right? A lot of us have been to these places. They are countries with certain level of democracy and standards. And we trust that these countries can host migrants in case they are not accepted by their
Okay.
closest neighbors.
Yeah.
What about Libya? I mean, Malta has a deal with the Libyan government not really, it's kind of a pushback of migrants who try and flee from Libya. Obviously, the problem with Libya is that there are constant reports. There was one published by the United Nations only a few months ago, saying that basically these migrants are subjected to slavery,
Absolutely.
enforced prostitution.
We saw slave
extortion.
auctions,
There were
slave
as
auctions
well
in Libya a few years back.
and this is still going on in some Libyan detention camps. Is this something that you're okay with?
Absolutely not. And in fact, the regime that we voted for and what we approved and all the Maltese MEPs approved includes a lot of safeguards to what amounts to a safe third country. And in fact, for a country to be included as a safe third country, the Commission has to do a very thorough analysis. There's a process, and the European Parliament has to vote for these countries to be included.
Okay.
So the left, the center, the far right, the people in the middle will get an occasion to review thoroughly whether any other country can be considered as a safe third country. So to me, this is also an expression of rule of law, because we speak a lot about rule of law, right? Rule of law is an all-encompassing concept in the sense that if a person is not entitled to humanitarian protection, then that person should be returned to their place of origin. This does not touch in any way all the guarantees that the European Union already has and which we strongly believe in. That a person who is undergoing a situation of risk to life and limb, coming from a war-torn country or from undergoing persecution, could be gender-related, it could be politics-related. If that person applies for asylum in a European Union member state, that person should definitely be granted asylum and protection for as long as needed.
But not today.
So this does not put into discussion any of our guarantees when it comes to humanitarian protection.
Right. So I want to bring up a pretty similar topic, actually, that a lot of people were discussing this week. Movement Graffiti. Movement Graffiti this week or last week said the issue of statelessness. They brought this up. I don't know if you saw this. So basically they were saying that, so a rejected asylum seeker, so they're rejected and they have a child while in Malta. What happens to that child? That child is technically stateless because his parents were refused asylum. They were arguing that, if you're born in Malta, even if you were the son or daughter of someone who's stateless, you should be given Maltese citizenship, etc. Quite an interesting discussion. What are your thoughts on this? This is a fresh discussion. So basically, children of refused asylum seekers in Malta, once they're born here, should they be given Maltese citizenship?
Listen, I understand first and foremost that once you get to know these people, you can no longer be objective.
Yeah.
I have met illegal migrants, I have met asylum seekers, I have met all people in all different kinds of states.
Absolutely.
And I must say that when I relate to them, when I have lunch with them or a drink with them or a coffee with them or just a simple conversation, I am no longer objective.
It makes it hard.
So if you ask me this thing about someone I know, I don't know how to reply, but let me reply, let's say theoretically, what I think the law is and should be.
As a policy maker.
Be applied.
Yes.
So going beyond the emotional and the personal, which will always be there, because sometimes I get, you might have someone saying on Facebook, send them back.
Yeah.
And then you realize that this guy is working with a company and his employer comes to you and tell you, listen, this guy, his visa has expired. Please help me. We need to keep him because he's such a nice chap. So people, when they are put
double standards,
confronted with the reality of human faces, they think differently. But in theory, a person who is rejected asylum comes from a state where his or her life is not at risk, where you can build a family, where you can have a basic set of freedoms, where you can, where you're not in danger. So if that person has a child in Malta, that person should return to that member state, register that child as a national of that state, and give that person all the rights of a citizen of that state. Now, this argument in Malta becomes more and more ambiguous and difficult. Why? Because at the same time, we're importing thousands, tens of thousands,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to help us in our economy, in many sectors of the economy, from
Third countries, yeah.
other states, third country nationals with all the permits and so on. So when you put cases together, you will always be challenged.
Yeah.
But in a way, the law has to be set
Yep.
in a way that it is at least as much as possible covering the realities at hand.
Do you agree with the Maltese bus raids?
The Maltese?
Bus raids on migrants.
Bus raids.
The bus raids. With the police going on buses.
So every
The
asking-
raids.
the raids,
Yes.
yeah. So every week or two we see like,
Yeah.
eight migrants have been returned home, 16 migrants have been returned home,
Yeah, I
etc.
noticed that they have been active on this front lately. Listen, if we are to agree on laws, and we have agreed on laws, then we cannot object to their application. I wouldn't be the one to object to the application of a law, which we adopted in Malta or in Europe. Again, the irony sometimes is hurting you. I mean, the irony that while we are deporting, a few every month or every year, then we are importing thousands. But
Yep.
then there is the skills question as well. So we have to be there clear, right? When an employer asks for a person to join us in Malta, a third country national, that person, that employer is looking for a certain set of skills.
Yep.
So you wouldn't know the skills of these irregular migrants.
So I want to switch topics a little bit. So I think in your political career, one of the main aspects of kind of what is Peter Agius is standing for Maltese agriculture. If it's Maltese, it's good. You've always supported farmers, etc., etc., etc. For many years. Recently, obviously, we had the tragedy with the fireworks explosion, right? A lot has been said, so I don't want to go into it again. But kind of like looking at the consequences of this explosion. We had that bird park, which was decimated. A 58-year-old parrot was killed by this explosion. In fact, in-house, one of our journalists, Nicole, interviewed the owner. He was, his I don't want to say his life was ruined, but kind of,
Tears, yeah.
his life work was kind of ruined. Animals he's been friends with, birds he's known for years, were all killed. Farmers, animals killed, crops destroyed. You came out, defending fireworks, saying it's part of Maltese tradition and all of this. And I just want to understand kind of where your mind's at, because a lot of farmers are really hurt. A lot of citizens of Malta are hurt, and animals and crops now have been, ruined, killed, and just ruined. And I know Prime Minister Robert Abela said something about potentially exploring compensation, but as far as I know, no farmers have been compensated. The bird park man, I don't know how he's going to be compensated for loss of life for, animals he clearly had a passion for. So where's your mind at this? I just want to try to understand.
In this case, what I did is reacting to a call by a vice president of the European Parliament from the Greens group, Stefanuta, who called for a total ban on fireworks in Europe. And I wrote to Stefanuta, I spoke to him, I met him, and I told him, listen, please be careful. There has been an accident in Malta. It's very serious. We need to see very clearly. This is why the Nationalist Party has also called for the inquiry to be public on this case. So let's not underestimate for a single moment the seriousness of this case and the need to make sure that our citizens live in safety, not only close to Matap, but in the 39 other locations where we have firework factories. Most of them are very far away from habitat, from residences. But this is about our safety, so
Yep.
let's not underestimate that. But my call to Stefanuta was that this is not a case of calling for a ban, but a case of understanding better how we can protect our safety. Now, once I read a quote, I forgot to whom it was attributed, but this quote said something like this: "My rights end where your rights start." But there are two rights here. There's the right of a citizen to live in safety and in peace. And then there is the right of the hobbyist, of the guy who is like dedicated since maybe childhood or maybe generations
Absolutely.
to this spectacular expression of
So how
talent.
are we balancing this?
Now, I
Especially
need to share something
following
which
that
I
tragedy.
never said in public.
Okay.
I'm sharing it here first. I lost my uncle to fireworks. Okay?
I'm sorry to hear that.
So I hated fireworks.
What happened?
Basically, he got exploded under a tree. They were working fireworks like 45 or 50 years ago.
Wow. Which locality? Which locality?
Sorry?
Which area? Locality? Which town?
In Ashar. He was
Ashar.
working for the Gazine, which then became Peace. The
Jesus.
Peace in
Wow.
Ashar.
Wow.
Okay, so I for a very long time, I hated fireworks because they represented this family tragedy for me. But then when I got into politics and I started being around people, because to represent people, you need to know them. And you need to know every aspect of society, from the guys working in cybersecurity and gaming and financial services,
Yeah.
to the guys working fireworks, or nassap, cacciatore, preppers, whatever. You need to, to represent people as an MEP, you need to know really every aspect of our
Absolutely.
social, economic, and cultural life.
Of course.
So when I started meeting these guys, I realized that at one point, and this is attributable also to the Labour government. So the Labour government has improved things a lot when it comes to firework safety. This has to be said as well. From 2013 onwards, there was a huge effort for this, I would call culture, tradition, hobby,
Absolutely.
to increase safety. So when I saw that, and I put it with my conditioning, my personal conditioning, and I put everything together, my balance is that this thing should be regulated heavily, should be closely monitored, but it should not be prohibited.
Yep.
It should be regulated in a way that, people in the community have their say. And something which one also has to consider is that these local clubs, where do they get their money? Because these things cost a lot of money to do, buying the equipment, the
Absolutely.
materials. Why do they get their money? How do they get their money? They get their money from the community.
Absolutely.
So they go
Volunteer.
door to door.
Yeah.
So basically, fireworks in many villages is an expression of a will of the community.
Yeah.
So when I say to Stefanuta, listen, keep this in mind. This is a tradition in Malta. It's UNESCO heritage. It's that I have in mind. It's not that I am not sensible to the pain, to the lot of pain that the community endured with the... And I am also very concerned with the fact that this explosion was so
in
strong,
fact,
and
that's
had like 3 or 4 or
That's
5.
an issue that I wanted to bring up. So one of the issues you're facing in Malta is a lot of these firework factories are overloaded. They have way too many explosives in them. So how do we sort that out? Do we issue more licenses? Do we have new factories pop up? You saw the scale of that explosion. It was all over international news.
Yeah.
It was on Al Jazeera, it was everywhere. So this is not a small explosion. Glass was shattering everywhere. So how do we sort this out? How do we move forward from this to make sure it never happens again? And if there is, you never know, another explosion, it's not of that scale with that many explosives in one building.
Listen, on many matters, I have studied things, and I can try to give you a professional answer. On this, I can tell you my feeling on this.
Understood.
First of all, we need to
Yeah.
we need to see what the inquiry will be telling us. So what happened in that case? I mean, why? From what I see, again, I insist that I'm not speaking in some sort of authoritative way
No.
here. So from what I see that these guys are under a lot of stress because materials have gone so, they are becoming so much more expensive, the materials that they use. And I believe that they are trying to economize.
It's the Temu Tax.
It's on the Strait of Hormuz again.
Maybe it's related.
It might be.
But it was before, even before.
Yeah.
The materials have gone so become so
Yeah.
more expensive
It's getting harder and harder to raise money as
that
well.
I think this is having an effect on how they
Store it.
manage
Yeah.
Hmm.
Interesting.
their trade. This is my feeling. But again, I think we should wait for Magistrate Mifsud's conclusions. I hope these are made public. And if I can make a public appeal, I hope that government stands up to their promise of compensating all the people who suffered damages because of that explosion. Because it is something that authorities
Yep.
should stand up for.
So, Peter, I want to ask you, when you look at this, what do you see? I mean, can you kind of hold it?
I see something which I am very much tempted sometimes to drink when it's like 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening and I'm still in the European Parliament and I still have a briefing to prepare for the day after. But I never fall into that temptation. That's something personal.
You're missing out.
But there's something else. I see something that my kids drink, right? And my kids are 14, 15, 16. And as a parent, I want to make sure, first of all, as a parent, I have to, put out a lesson. Listen, you can enjoy something once, but you don't need to become addicted to it. So it's one thing drinking one a day or one every 3-4 days, and it's another thing drinking 3 a day.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, but that I am in charge of doing as a parent.
Yeah.
But so if it happens under my watch at home, I can try with difficulty to handle that as a parent. But if it happens at school, or if they can buy them at the supermarket, what control do I have there? And this is why in the European Parliament, what I'm pushing for is not to ban energy drinks. I have no interest in banning anything. My political culture is live and let live. Okay? Let people enjoy their freedoms. But if this thing is harmful to our children, then it should be regulated. It shouldn't be sold to children. It shouldn't be available in vending machines. It shouldn't be available at any corner shop. This is the question.
What's in it that's
I don't have an answer to that. To be honest,
what's in it that's dangerous? Because Coca-Cola, it's packed of sugar, Fanta, Sprite, whatever, to name a bunch of sodas. Why is this different? Is it the caffeine? What's the issue?
Caffeine
The
and
caffeine
taurine.
and taurine.
There's a
Okay.
number of other.
So it's not the sugar.
It's not the sugar. The sugar is bad, but
this has
Because this is sugar-free.
zero
This is
sugar,
sugar-free.
actually, yeah.
So you could even argue that, a regular Coca-Cola is much more harmful for the body with the amount of sugar. And so I'm just trying to understand why it's the caffeine and the taurine.
the caffeine. We had a hearing in the European
Yeah.
Parliament about this in December. Oh yeah, I pushed within APP and with other political groups. There is also an MEP who has been working for ages about this. She's a Croatian. Her name is Biljana Borzan. She's been doing a campaign for lots of years about energy drinks. Okay, she's a medical doctor, and the question is, let's understand whether these things are good for our children, and if they are not, we should limit them maybe to 16, 17, 18. We should see, and it's true that a lot of things we're eating are
Exactly. Like if you walk into a store,
Not
this
to
is
mention
nothing compared to what's out there.
eating a lot of cake. But I am an adult.
Yes.
I can make my own decisions. So
So you'd be okay in a world where these are banned for 16, 17-year-olds up, but McDonald's is totally fine, Coca-Colas are fine, those are unregulated. That's fine for you. This is the issue that you really need to ban to 16 plus.
that's it. And if you see many other products like alcohol and
What about
cigarettes,
coffee? What about coffee? There's caffeine there. A 15-year-old can go up to a cafeteria and
the
buy an
problem is
espresso.
that this has, if I remember correctly, like 10 doses of espresso. So 10 espressos here.
I'm not sure if this one does, but maybe certain brands do.
Yes. There are many brands.
Exactly,
and
there's a
some
lot
them
of
are
brands.
even made in Malta. And I'm proud of that. So if we promote them with adults and if they are available to adults who know what they want and who can regulate their behavior hopefully a little bit better.
Yeah.
But 14-year-olds, 12-year-olds, I mean, seriously, let's understand what's inside first. Because the European Union has a scientific opinion about energy drinks, which is 12 years old. And this was my point in the European Parliament. Listen, our children are consuming these very regularly. Let's at least have the science done well, okay? So that we can decide in a professional way.
Yeah. So final question. What's the most energy drinks your children have drunk in one day? And what did they end up
I
doing?
hope not more than one. Not under my watch. But I wouldn't bet on it. I wouldn't bet on it.
Peter Agius, thank
you
you so much for being with us today.
Grazie Lilko.
Grazie.